last approximately around an hour, and then we'll be having Guru Arati after that. So, yes, just as it is important for Harinam, it's also just as important for Harikatha. Something to wash and bathe the consciousness and the mind. So, we'll start with a short song, bhajan. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Nittai Gora Haribol, 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 Nittai Gora Haribol. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Srila Jagat Guru, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nittai Gaur Pramanande. Hare Krishna everyone, and welcome to the Bhagavad-gita class. Thank you all so much for being here. One of the things that Srila Prabhupada always emphasized is that for there to be a Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning and then for there to be a session of Bhagavad-gita class in the evening. This is a good way of sort of bathing, washing the mind. During the course of our time, during the course of our day, we go through so much calamity, perplexity, big choice decision-making, so many different circumstances and situations that sometimes can cover our vision. So therefore, through hearing, through chanting, through association, then we can really access that purity. So therefore, we're going to just have a little bit of discussion from the Bhagavad-gita. Today we're reading from chapter 13, which is entitled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, and verse 32. So first I'll read in Sanskrit and then you can follow, and then after that the translation and the purport. So that's chapter 13, verse 32. Anad vitan nirgunat vat anaditatvan nirgunat vat paramatmayam avyaya sharirastopi kunteya na karoti na lipyate anadvitan nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyaya sharirastopi kunteya nakaroti nalipyate anadvitan nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyaya Sharira stopi kunteya nakaroti nalipyate. Don't have a go. Anadviran nirgunatvat paramatmaram avyaya Sharirastopi kunteya nakaroti nalipyate. Thank you so much. Anyone else? No? Okay, that's fine. So we'll read the transliteration now. Anadvit Anaditvat, due to eternity. Nirgunatvat, due to being transcendental. Parama, beyond material nature. Atma, spirit. Ayam, this. Avyaya, inexhaustible. Sharirasta, dwelling in the body. Api, though. Kunteya, O son of Kunti. Nakaroti, never does anything. Nalipyate, nor is he entangled. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjun, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Purport. A living entity appears to be born because of the birth of the material body, but actually the living entity is eternal. He is not born, and in spite of his being situated in the material body, he is transcendental and eternal. Thus he cannot be destroyed. By nature he is full of bliss. He does not engage himself in any material activities. Therefore the activities performed due to his contact with material bodies do not entangle him. Om Jnana Timandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Priyajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vindavaneshvari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So just the translation again. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjun, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So, in today's class, what I want to share and what I want to discuss about is really the nature of the soul and the entanglement of this material world, and how to really build and connect our relationship with the Lord. So one thing that really came to my mind as I was reading through this particular verse and I was reading through this purport is the analogy and the example of Srila Prabhupada giving when he talks about, the screw on the floor. So you see, when we think about a screw, what is a screw's position? This is going to be very interactive. What's a screw's position? To hold wool together, right? Fantastic. Yes. So a screw's position is to hold any form of machine, anything together. And so therefore, because that screw is there to connect or to hold things together, naturally the screw is parts and parcel of the machine. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's together. So Krishna actually says in the Bhagavad-gita that the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to the conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. So when I also came through this verse, I also came through the analogy that Srila Prabhupada uses about how, battling with the mind is like there being two birds in one tree, in the same tree. There's the eating bird, which is engrossed with anxiety, which is engrossed with moroseness. That bird is trying to enjoy. That bird is trying to sort of devour. And then behind that bird is the other bird, which is basically the Lord. So Krishna is actually in every single one of our heart. Krishna is in our heart in the form of Paramatma. We in this material world are constantly attempting, endeavoring, trying to find ways in which we can enjoy, trying to find in ways that we can chew on the chewed, trying to find a way to satisfy our senses, to satisfy our sense of security, to satisfy our sense of comfort. But the reality is, the more that we endeavor for this, the more that we are suffering. And actually Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the Lord is right behind us, just waiting for us to turn to Him. And what is the symptom of when we turn to the Lord? When we decide that we don't want to be in this state of anxiety, that we don't want to be in this state of lamentation, the symptom of it is that we first experience relief. When we know that Krishna is always with us, when we know that Krishna is guiding us, when we know that Krishna resides within the hearts of all living entity, and not just know it, but really apply that in our life, we practice it, we have utmost faith, we surrender. So, for instance, you may apply for a certain career, or you may apply for a certain school for your child, or you may apply for a particular thing, whatever it may be so, or maybe even in your spiritual life. Whatever it is, as long as you know that actually Krishna's supporting me, that Krishna's in my heart, Krishna's trying to show me the way, then one of the things that we experience is a sense of relief. Because we know that everything is working according to the Lord. And whatever is working according to the Lord must mean that it's working for us, because the Lord wants us to Him. So that's the first thing. We experience a sense of relief from our anxiety, from our stress, from our worries. The second thing is confidence. We develop this confidence, this ability to be able to progress forward, to be able to move forward. One of the biggest things that in society a lot of people struggle with nowadays is over-analysis of paralysis. So people overthink. People are constantly anxious. People are constantly worrying about the future or lamenting about the past. That therefore they don't really take on the opportunity to be able to live in the moment, to be able to act in the moment, which defines how much of a progress we make moving forward. So therefore, that's the other thing, that we're able to develop confidence against all grains, against all odds, whatever the obstacles may be, whatever the challenges may be, whether that is a challenge that has struck our family, our friends, or even us personally. We develop confidence to be able to move forward, knowing that the Lord is actually guiding us. So actually, Srila Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction, And this is really, really important, because when we have a narrow mind, we see things as we are. But when we have broad mind, we see things as they are. So Srila Prabhupada in the next of instruction mentions that a cripple-minded person always engaged in satisfying their senses sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. This may all be very good from the material point of view, but such activities have no spiritual value. Actually, when we think about happiness, what does happiness mean? Happiness means the absence of suffering. When we see that our loved ones are having a good time, when we see that we're having a good time, we're happy. But the moment that we see them suffering or we see ourselves suffering, that happiness is no longer there. So happiness is a very temporary concept. It is something very temporary, very short-lived. And that's the happiness to do not with just ourselves, but also the happiness of wanting to provide for our family, wanting to serve our friends, wanting to serve those around us. And naturally what happens is that we also develop expectation. So therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is why it's really, really important that rather than having a narrow mind, that we do our best to really broaden our mind. Because in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Canto 10, chapter 1 to 3, it's really elaborated that the desire of the Paramahamsa, therefore, is to act always for Krishna. They use anger against non-devotees and transform bhaya, or fear, into fear of being deviated from Krishna consciousness. In this way, the life of a Paramahamsa devotee is used entirely for Krishna, just as the life of a person attached to the material world is used simply for women and money. So therefore, really, the most important thing is that we center our life around Krishna. That whatever we do, actually you see the struggles, the challenges. One thing that really came to my mind is that sometimes we shy away from our shortcomings. We become very anxious about our shortcomings. But actually our shortcomings can be a source of us developing humility. If we had it all good, if all that we were focused on were our strength and what we're able to do, what we're able to accomplish, then pride may prevail. But the fact that, there are things that we're good at, but there are shortcomings that we have. There are struggles and challenges. Those can actually become a source of humility. It can also become into a source of us reaching out to Krishna, connecting with Krishna, speaking to Krishna and telling him, like, Krishna, without you, I cannot make it in this life. Without your devotees, I cannot progress in this life. So therefore, whatever we think is working against us can actually work for us when we dovetail it to Krishna consciousness. So that's a very important something to remember also. And so therefore, what is day for the materialistic person is night for the spiritualist. This is something that we can all do. Those that are watching online and those that are in the temple room, this is something that we can really all do, is just meditate and think, what are the things that we're sort of hiding? What is the things that we're sort of shying? What are the things that we don't really like to sort of pay attention to? But how can we utilize that in order to be able to develop a sense of humility, a sense of pridelessness, a sense of compassion, a sense of love? What is it that we can do, practically speaking? So this is really, really important. What we do in our own time really helps us to evolve. It really helps us to mature and develop. Not just simply what is seen, what we do in public, but also what we do in our own time. So therefore, another really beautiful verse is from the Sri Ishopanishad, when Krishna mentions how he is the owner and controller of everything. And so therefore he is complete, and he has given us, every single one of us in this room and those that are watching online, he has given every single one of us our quota to be able to live in this world, to be able to perform our duty in this world, but also to be able to practice our spiritual life in this world. Prabhupada always said that in this world there is enough for our need, but there is not enough for our greed. When we become greedy, when we become selfish, then we lose sight of what is important. So therefore, the most important thing is that we can learn to try and be satisfied with what it is that Krishna has given to us. Because actually what he's given to us is enough if we utilize it in the appropriate manner, if we utilize it in the appropriate way. Otherwise, actually, no matter how much more and more and more we acquire, we will never be satisfied. We will always lament. We will always wish we had more, we could have done something different. So, also a very important thing to remember is actually every living entity's position is to be a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. That's our constitutional position, just like I was using the analogy of the screw. The screw's role is to be able to fit into pieces of machines to connect that together. So therefore, naturally, also our role, our position is to be part and parcel of the Lord. And so therefore, by actually serving Him, by satisfying Him, by pleasuring Him, we also become satisfied in that process. Are we not all looking for happiness in this world? Yes, we are all looking for happiness, but we're looking for happiness in the wrong places. That's the problem. We're looking for the right thing, but we're looking for it in the wrong place. Actually, by directing our attention and our focus on the Supreme Lord, by deepening our relationship and our connection with the Supreme Lord, then we can actually experience that sense of fulfillment, that sense of satisfaction that we're craving for. That there is nothing more that we can accomplish that will help us to be able to achieve that. We've all done that and been there, right? We've had different jobs, different careers, we've been different places, we've traveled around the world, we've had family, everything, and yet there's still that sense of unfulfillment. I want more. But we've got to realize just by watering the twigs or watering the branch or watering the stick, it doesn't mean that you're going to be fulfilled. It doesn't mean that the plant will be nourished. The plant will remain dehydrated. So what do? We nourish, we water the root. So therefore, our root is to be able to satisfy the Lord, is to be able to serve the Lord through His devotees, through the process of sadhu sangha, the association with the devotees, spending our time with the devotees, spending our time with what Srila Prabhupada has given us, which are His books, spending time with what Gauranga Mahaprabhu has given us, which is the holy name. When we are able to actually apply these routines in our life, then spiritual life no longer becomes ritualistic, but it becomes alive in our life. It becomes real substance that we're able to experience a sense of nourishment and fulfillment in. And there is nothing that can satisfy that other than the relationship that we're hankering for from our Supreme Father, which is the Lord. So therefore, the reality is that we're living in a very unnatural world. But in this unnatural world, we have spiritual desires that are unable to be met with, unable to be fulfilled. And so therefore, we're not really and truly satisfied. Yet, we're trying to make a comfortable situation for ourselves in an uncomfortable world, in an uncomfortable circumstance and situation. Actually, when you think about it, there is more ways that we can experience pain than there is that we can experience pleasure. There is more ways that we can get hurt than we can feel safe. Our life is constantly filled with so much sense of anxiety and danger. No matter how much we accumulate, no matter how much we have, we're always anxious that we don't want to lose it. Or when will we lose it? Or how will we lose it? We're always anxious or lamenting. So therefore, the reality is that Krishna being the super, and it's something that I really, really like, and it really humbles us. It allows us to sort of rely on the Lord to establish a relationship with the Lord, which is that in this world, Shishi Radha Gokulananda ki, Shishi Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shishi Gornitai ki. So in this world, that there are things that we know that we know. Then there are things that we know that we don't know, and then there are things that we don't know that we don't know. Actually, more than 80% of the things is that things that we don't know that we don't know. We are constantly living within the limitation, within the restriction of what we directly experience. But beyond that, there is so much more. And that's where really Shastra comes in. That's where Srila Prabhupada comes in, because Srila Prabhupada is telling us that, look, we're trying to be satisfied with less than what we can really experience and really have. That actually our true inherent nature is that we are Satchit Ananda. That, we're parts and parcel of the Lord. And by simply focusing on Him, that we are also able to experience those nature, those qualities that is already within us. So, again, like I mentioned, Prabhupada mentions the example that how when we water the root of the plant, then everything else becomes satisfied. Actually, there's also another example. There's another analogy that's given. What is it that every single one of us are required to do every single day, that we do every day? Yes. Breathe, eat. Yes. So we all eat, right? If we don't eat, what happens? We starve. If we eat, what happens? We become malnourished. So therefore, but what do? When we eat, we use our hand to feed our stomach. So this is a very simple analogy. So we use our hand to feed our stomach. Now imagine if the hand didn't want to feed the stomach but just wanted to eat itself. That's inconceivable. I can already see from the face. It's just not possible, right? It's not possible. You can't even conceive that. You can't even really think about that. But what happens is that if the hand decides to become selfish, then the body suffers, the stomach suffers. Are you with me on this thought track? Okay. So, therefore, that's similarly, the living entity in this world is it's like being like the hand. It just wants to try and enjoy itself. It wants the kingdom of God, but without God, basically. So the living entity wants the kingdom of God, but wants it without God. It wants to enjoy that kingdom. It wants to be satisfied in kingdom. But how can we live in the kingdom of God without God? It belongs to God. It belongs to Krishna. When we can acknowledge that, when we can establish that, then what happens there is that it's that similar analogy of how the stomach then becomes nourished. And when the stomach is nourished, the whole body functions appropriately. It functions according to its role. So therefore, it's very difficult to be happy without centering our life around the Supreme Lord. It is very difficult. What do we have? Maybe another 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, 50 years, who knows? But eventually we'll have to leave it all behind. So therefore, the purpose of life, the purpose of existence is self-realization, to understand who we are. Because Srila Prabhupada said, that the symptom of a devotee is that he's always jolly, even in difficult circumstances and situations. It means that actually, what does that mean? Yes, you are right. Yes. So let me tell you something. A scientific experiment can only be proven when that individual does it himself. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has given us the process. Whether one wants to practice or not practice, whether one wants to believe or doesn't want to believe, whether one wants to follow or doesn't want to follow, that is personal choice. That is a personal decision. But the science is there, the process is there. Many people have tried out that science. They've experienced the result of it. Now, if one person doesn't want to decide to try that experiment themselves, then that's their choice. So therefore, you chant Hare Krishna. You read Srila Prabhupada's books, and you'll see whether what is being mentioned is just Srila Prabhupada speaking, or if it's something that also you can experience. I can't talk for you. No, but you have to experience it. You have to test it out. Can I ask you a question? Have you tested it out? Have you tested fully? Fully means here. Have you chanted? Have you read Srila Prabhupada's books? Have you associated with devotees with faith? So the thing is, spiritual life, yes, sorry, just spiritual life is compared to like a banyan tree. So therefore, what it means is that in the material sense, you do something and you find the result immediately, or even if it's not immediately, maybe within a few years or whatever it is. But in spiritual life, one of the process that we experience is something called anartha nivriti. It means that when you're practicing spiritual life, I remember once there was someone that was chanting the holy name. And then after some while, what had happened was a lot of bad thoughts were coming into his mind. He was struggling. He was going through difficulties. He was going through circumstances, and he just like, okay, maybe this chanting process isn't working. That's what you call anartha nivriti. Anartha nivriti means that when unwanted things starts to pop up in your life. But, in order for anything to sort of be cleansed, there has to be some mess in the beginning. Can we continue? Sorry, because, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I do get your point, but also... so Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita that... Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 7, verse 7, that, O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on the thread. So therefore, the point I was trying to make earlier on is actually that when we actually even think about it, that we are constantly trying to experience Satchit Ananda. We see that through even just practical examples, that we're always trying to be happy, we're always trying to look and acquire for knowledge. So this is something that we're all trying to constantly experience. So therefore, what we have to understand is when we actually serve the Supreme Lord, then we naturally experience that Satchit Ananda. We experience that bliss, we experience that happiness. Um, Krishna's capacity to enjoy is unlimited. Krishna's capacity to enjoy is unlimited, and so therefore us being his parts and parcel, we can also experience that full satisfaction by engaging in his service. Actually, one of the things that we've also got to understand is that the nature of the living entity is also to serve. We're constantly serving. One way or another, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's a mother, whether it's a father, whether it's even someone unemployed, whoever it is, we're always constantly serving. So whether we're serving our senses, whether we're serving the Supreme Lord, that is also our personal choice. So therefore, like I was mentioning earlier on, by us engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, we can feel satisfied. Otherwise, happiness in this material world basically just means absence of suffering. And we've all experienced this at some point to some degree. You know, you can think of the times that you were most happiest, and you can think of times that you were the least happiest. And it was probably because there were some expectations that were not fulfilled. There was something that was just not sort of co-aligning with what you were hankering for, what you thought would make you happy. And our desires are constantly changing, rapidly changing. Especially in the world that we're living in today, our mind is constantly flickering. So therefore, it's really important that we are able to sort of focus our direction on something or the Supreme Lord. So like I said earlier on, and this is so important, that what is satisfaction? Satisfaction is basically expectation and fulfillment. And when either of them are not met, then there's no satisfaction. And what is the expectation that we want in this world? The expectation that we want in this world is full Satchit Ananda. Is that we all want happiness. We all want to know. We want to be in the know of what's going on in our life, in the life of those around us. We all want to love, right? That is the nature of the soul. The nature of the soul is to love and be loved. Everything that we do is driven by this force. Whether it's the person that's hankering for power, the person that's hankering for a relationship, the person that's hankering for whatever it is that we're hankering for, wealth, is that because we think by acquiring that thing, we're going to experience happiness, we're going to experience love, we're going to experience satisfaction. So this is what's driving the whole world. This is what's driving our questions also, when we sort of inquire, is because we want to know, okay, how can I be happy in this world? How can I be satisfied in this world? How can I feel complete in this world? How can I feel love in this world? In a world that there is so much perplexity, calamity, so much perversion happening. How can I experience all these? How can I experience these for my children? How can I experience these for my parents? We're all experiencing this. This is what's driving the world. So therefore, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 10, verse 10, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can understand me, or they can come. So therefore, the how do we access the answer to that how? Is by really surrender, first of all, engaging ourselves in devotional service. This is not a theoretical process. This is not a process that just can be understood by just gyan. Too much knowledge can actually sometimes even harden one's heart. And then we can develop that mentality of, I already know this. Why am I hearing this? Why am I listening to this? But when we develop that attitude, when we develop that mentality, our heart becomes hardened. And so therefore it's difficult to connect and build a relationship with the Lord. As I mentioned earlier on, humility is so important. Even when we are inquiring, we should inquire with the mood, with the heart of a humility. That we sincerely want to know the path to Krishna. That we sincerely want to develop a relationship with the Lord. And when we can do that, then the Lord guides us. The Lord is in our heart. He guides us from within to to Him. So it's really important. It's not what we say, it's not what we do, but the mood in which what we say and what we do. But last and not least, so we all have this urge, like I've mentioned earlier on, for Satchidananda, to be happy, to be loved, to experience fulfillment. And Shastra gives us. You see, the thing is, this is not an ordinary book. This is not an ordinary book. One person may flip through this book, may read verses, may read purport, and may not experience absolutely anything. Another person may open this book with a heart of sincerity, with a heart of purity, with really endeavoring to understand, and not just understand, to apply. And then suddenly, so much may be revealed to that person. The knowledge doesn't come just because we want it. There's also a qualification for that. So therefore, when we develop a spiritual vision, then we are able to understand. We are able to process. We are able to apply. Otherwise, it's just a paper and words. So how much faith we have is what reveals to us what we can access. How much least faith that we have, then it's just another ordinary scripture. It's nothing more to it. So really, it's down to us. And that's why the process of chanting is so important. That process of chanting, in order to be able to purify one's consciousness enough, to be able to decrease our pride, to be able to decrease our false ego, so that therefore we're able to access the true ego that can allow us to be able to understand what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And to be able to practice it with purity, to practice it with sincerity. So therefore, if the living entity does not connect with the Supreme Lord, then they're starving themselves in this world. Just like the body needs food, the soul also requires nourishment. And if we don't nourish the soul, then we become spiritually dead. Then we are sort of leading a very ritualistic lifestyle and routine with no emotion. So therefore, it's really important that we wake up our soul. And how do we do that? By nourishing what is called sadhana bhakti. That process of chanting, association. I was asked, why isn't this process working? It's because we have to have faith. We have to have faith. It says that faith can move a mountain. Faith can transform what seems negative into positive. Faith can transform what feels like a loss into an opportunity. Faith. Faith broadens our mindset. So faith, we've got to read with faith, we've got to chant with faith. And we develop that faith through hearing. Through hearing from the pure devotees. But not with the mood of trying to sort of prove something is wrong. But rather I'm open to what it is that Krishna is trying to empower me from within. So, otherwise, all of our knowledge just becomes a chit. It just becomes knowledge that's not really able to sort of give us that access to be able to progress in our spiritual life. Knowledge that are not really sort of resourceful to us. There's so much knowledge. But the most important knowledge is the knowledge of who am I, what is my purpose here, what is my relationship with the Lord, and where am I going? The most ironic thing is that people think that they have their whole life to live, and then when they come to the end of their life, they realize that they haven't lived. They're always like, I'll give it tomorrow, I'll wait till next week, I'll wait till next month, I'll wait till next year. They wait, just to be at a loss in life. But this opportunity is not an opportunity that will await us. This opportunity is an opportunity that we must just learn to grab and really to utilize it to the best of our ability. And when we can do that, then we're really able to prosper. So, therefore, this is a process that many people have tried out, that have practiced, and they've seen that it works for them. It's like a doctor that, a doctor comes to you and diagnoses you with a certain illness or with a certain disease, and he tells you take this prescription, this amount of prescription for this amount of week, this amount of time, and you follow it. And if you follow it, you get the result. Now, if you question it or you try to freestyle it or you try and do whatever you want to do, then you may get worse than you were before. So the point I'm making is that we know only what is within the capacity of what we know, what's been taught to us. But beyond that, there's so much more scope of things that Krishna is trying to reveal to us, that Srila Prabhupada has written for us. If we only know what is within our scope, then isn't it the most intelligent thing to do is to find that source of something that can give us higher knowledge, that can help us to end our suffering in this world, and to give us and that can help us to experience real happiness, real bliss that comes from within, that doesn't sort of rely on our external materialistic objects, our materialistic accumulation. Which, by the way, Alexander, the Great, he said, when I die, I want both of the palm of my hands to be facing upwards, because I want to show everyone, I want to tell everyone that you come into this world with nothing and you leave with nothing. But actually, to go even a bit deep beyond that, the only thing that we take with us is our karma that we need to burn off. So technically, we don't just come into this world with nothing. We don't just leave with nothing. We've got that karma. So the most important thing is that we perform activities that are akarma. When our activities are dedicated and devoted to the Lord, then therefore we're able to be free from the bondage of material suffering. So, and that's the only way that the soul can really have a positive experience, is in relation to Krishna. Otherwise, we're trying to enjoy in an impermanent world with impermanent things, though our soul is eternal. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much. If anyone else has any question.
I have a very good one. That was a very good read. Thank you very much for that. I really learned a lot. It's the practice, the problem with me. Practice. I do my prayers, I do my readings, I do my Gita reading, and then after a month or so, I lose my momentum. And then I'll leave it for a little while, a month, 2 months, I start again, then leave, then start. How keep it constant?
That's why I cannot emphasize and I cannot stress, and I've experienced this in my life too, that in this journey of Krishna consciousness, you will experience so many thorns. But one of the most important thing, absolutely important and crucial, that you have to really stick with is the devotees. You will experience so much fluctuation. In Africa, I don't know the country, but there's this one village. In this village, what happens is that whenever someone commits a horrible act, instead of that person being chastised, what happens is that he is put into the center of a circle of people, and he is just reminded of all of his positive qualities, all of his wonderful qualities. Instead of telling him, why did you do this? You're such a bad person. You're this, you're that. No, it's like, you're such a good person. You're amazing. You're this, you're that. And then it overwhelms that person. And it helps that person to wake up to his sense. It's like, oh, what I did was wrong. I need to get my act together. I need to rise again. I need to do better. So association with understanding people, compassionate people, and people that see the best in you. They say that, if you see someone as he is, then he'll always remain the same. But if you see someone for who they can become, then they'll become the best version of themselves. So you have to see someone that sees a future that is even better for you than what you can see yourself. And when you can do that, then that will inspire you. Even if you have down moments, it will still enthuse you. Borrow someone else's vision until you are able to develop your own vision. So association. There's no other way. Even more important than chanting is association. Chanting we may not have a taste for, but association can help us to also develop that taste for chanting. Anyone else? So bliss, eternal or knowledge. Yeah, just the nature. Yeah, the nature of the soul is to always be blissful. That is eternal, and ananda, always happy. Yeah, it's a state that is our true state, is our real state that is covered by this material body. When the living entity comes into contact with the material nature, he is governed under the modes of material nature, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance. And these sort of dictates our decisions and our ability to be able to how we see things. But beyond that is transcendental goodness, in which we can experience our true Satchidananda. Otherwise, thank you so much. Entourage Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. No problem. You can do kirtan, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Yeah. श्री राधा गोकुलानंद की, सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की, श्री श्री गौर निताय की। जय गौरानिताय, जय गौरानिताय, गौरानिताय, जय गौरानिताय, जय गौरानिताय, जय गौरानिताय, गौरानिताय, जय गौरानिताय, जय गौरानिताय, 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 जय गौरानिताय। शिव जय जय गौराचंद्र, आरती कसोमा। शिव जय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले हेमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare जय ओम शिवाय परम फाउंडाचार्य जगत गुरु शिलोपाद की ये भी फाउंडाचार्य जगत गुरु शिलोपाद की श्री श्री राधा गोकुलानंदन की जय श्री सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की जय श्री श्री गोमिताय की जय गंगा मैया जमुना मैया सरस्वती देवी की जय भक्ति तुलसी महारानी की जय अयोध्यापुरी मायापुरी जगन्नाथपुरी ग्वारियापुरी एक चक्र धाम की जय वृंदावना मुठा धाम की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव मुनि की जय नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय भारत माता की जय गोलोक वृंदावन धाम की जय गौ माता की जय सिक्स गोस्वामी की जय पंच तत्व की जय गुरु परंपरा की जय प्रेम से बोलो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद सीए गदाधर शिवासारि घोर भक्ति इस्कॉन वर्ल्ड वाइड की जय इस्कॉन वॉटफोर्ड की जय इस्कॉन लंदन की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि और ग्लोरीज टू असम डिवोटी और ग्लोरीज टू असम डिवोटी और ग्लोरीज टू असम डिवोटी और ग्लोरीज टू गुरु एंड भगवान
Namaste Nada Shingaya Namaste Nada Shingaya Nada Nada Daine Nada Hiranyakashi Purva Shingo Pada Gola Shingo Pada Yato Yato Yanita Gola Shingo Yato Yato Yanita Gola Shingo Pada Shingo Rida Yena Shingo Pada Kashipu Anugrega Devavadita Narayuka Jayagita Hare Jayagita Hare Jayagita Hare सिंहदेव भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रहलाद की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
Wedding party.
Try and find it first. Yeah. That's probably not good. How would they? They know who it is.
Where did you drop it, you know?
Just on the road, you know.
Oh, they'll probably still be there. Probably still be there.
Yeah, I hope at least it's
Yeah, the kirtan is in Haveli.
Oh.
Is that the whole program?
Oh, cool. Okay.
You know where Haveli is, right?
Yeah, thank you so much.